reviews on this, and with it being EA free to play, and them saying I won't have all these things, and then already data miners finding evidence of paid loot boxes, makes me worried about how much of this other stuff is a lie, or what, because they got to make their money off it one way or the other, right?
They are a company. They have to monetize.
Yeah. And I don't blame them for needing to make their money on it. I'm just worried about how egregious it's going to get.
Well, yeah, it's not blaming them about how to make the money. It's how they're bait and switching to make the money. It'd be better if they were upfront and told us, look, this is how we're going to make our money. I wouldn't even be upset at them for doing a whole bunch of microtransactions as long as they told us that was how they were going to do it. Don't try to tell us there's not going to be and then sneak them in.
Yeah. I mean,
and just call them by something else.
I don't know about other people. I'm someone who hates the whole loot box system, right? Like Overwatch. The gameplay of Overwatch is freaking great. But I stopped playing that game because I got sick and tired of fucking around with the loot boxes. Like I have a specific characters I like. I got like 3 characters I really, really, really like to use a lot. But anytime I'm getting new skins, you're getting loot boxes, and then those loot boxes will randomly give you outfit for any one of the 25, 30 characters in it. And I'm like, cool. I just got this crappy looking skin. I just spent money or my time to unlock the skin of a character that I never ever use, and it's ugly skin anyway or something. And
so it's like getting random packs of cards for Magic or something. You never know what you're going to get, but you could be a green color player and you get a pack of all white cards. Oh, great! I don't want to play white.
I don't trading card games like that partly for the same reason.
Yeah. I used to love Magic because of some of the randomness and the gambling involved, but it became too commercial, and I didn't like that. I don't like it to be so commercial. I liked it when it was just the fun of the trading and collecting and stuff. But at least I went in with my eyes wide open originally.
Yeah. You know what I don't do? I don't go to Amazon.com or eBay.com and say, I'm feeling lucky and spend $20 and hope that the package comes in as something I like.
Yeah, I do loot crates occasionally. I've done, but generally speaking, I stopped doing loot crate itself years back, and then for a while there, I did just loot tees because the t-shirts were really the main thing I wanted. I don't mind getting a random nerdy tee every once in a while, but even then, I sometimes got stuff I didn't like.
I did loot crate for about 6 or 7 months, and I got a few things that I liked out of it. I got a few cool shirts. I also got a few shirts that I hate, and I'll wear just because it's around the house. Like I don't give a shit about Star Trek, but I got a Star Trek shirt that I'll wear at the house. I don't like to go out in public with it, but I'll wear it at the house when I'm cleaning or something. I don't know. But,
it's like me with my Mandalorian shirt.
But, and I've got some really great shirts from it. But what I'd rather do is just, I'd rather get an ad for this really great shirt and then buy that really great shirt. So after 6 or 7 months, I was like, okay, cool. So I've been paying, I don't know, $20 a month to get $30 worth of stuff, but on average, I'm getting like $10 of stuff that I might actually want, and the rest of it's just junk. I'm constantly having to figure out what to do with it. I'm giving it away, and
I took a lot of my extra stuff and I put it in the trade table over at the Picnicking in the Universe.
Yeah,
that's what I would do with it.
But most of the stuff that I wanted to put on the table, I did that. I tried to do that one summer, but then I got there and I was like, oh shit. Pretty much everything I was going to put on the table, someone else has already put theirs already on the table. And I was like, I don't want there to be all this junk.
And there was people that took most of it, though. Because that's one good thing about the take and leave table. It never really has stuff left at the end of the picnic, because there's always somebody willing to grab this stuff up. If nothing else, some of us will pick them up just to put on the table next year.
I played 15, 20 hours of Overwatch or something like that. Most of my Overwatch gaming I streamed, and it was a fun game to stream. But I couldn't get over the obnoxiousness of the loot box, and I quit playing the game because of it.
Yeah. Some people, on the other hand, love that randomness and the whole loot box thing. And if that's your thing, fine. But like we're saying here, don't tell us that there's not going to be loot boxes and then have the data miners come and find out there's loot boxes in there. It's just you're going to have to, they're going to sneak it in on us.
Man, one of the worst things was like most of the skins I liked the most were only available in the month of October. So it's like I have to play it a lot in the month of October, and even then you weren't guaranteed to get it. It was just a random chance, but it was only in the random chance drop of maybe getting it if you happen to open loot boxes during the month of October. So there was a point in time where I was like, maybe I'll just keep playing it on stream and then not turn in any loot boxes. And then when I get to October, I'll have like 20 loot boxes to trade in all at once, and then cross my fingers and hope that I get a couple of Halloween costumes I really want. And I started thinking I'd do that, and I started doing that, and then before long I was like, no, this is just sucking the fun out of this whole game.
Right. Yeah. So, it's going to be kind of an iffy thing. We'll see what happens as things go on, but I mean, cross fingers, it's going to be better than we thought as far as that goes. It is nice to hear that they're not doing it, but
yeah, that's what's got me worried with Skate. I was like, Skate might have a fun gameplay loop, but it's going to lose me really quickly if I don't have a real sense of progression. It's just random
loot boxes.
Yeah.
Anyway. And if the paywalls end up just being in-game paywalls where you pay out-of-game money to get the in-game money to do the paywall, it's still going to be the paywall. It's just they're adding an extra step is all. You got to buy the in-game money first or earn it.
I'd have my little rant there.
But at least the only good thing about the in-game money thing is that you can not buy the in-game money and just spend your time grinding to earn it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be people who buy it.
I don't have a problem with grinding to earn things in game. I like that system, except for when it's completely random. There's certain games where it's not a problem. Like
sometimes you want the randomness. I mean, you like the gamble.
It works out. Like it's okay in Borderlands. It's fine in Diablo. But in those games, you get so many items.
Right.
You spend an hour playing Diablo, and you
tons of magic items, yeah,
and 20 different weapons, and it's all random. But you then pick what you want out of that. You spend an hour on Overwatch, and you get enough to open 1 or 2 loot boxes, and hopefully, out of those 1 or 2 loot boxes, you got a skin.
You get one thing you like, yeah.
You get sometimes you just get some emotes and colorful little bauble things or whatever for your name or something. I don't know. I prefer the mechanic of, hey, you want to, the way Call of Duty used to do it. I don't know about today, but the way Call of Duty used to do it, you want the special camouflage of this gun, get 20 headshots with that gun. I feel like I was earning that. And I get
earning unlocks, yeah.
Yeah, I love earning unlocks. I hate random loot boxes with really low turnout rates.
Yeah, I'll say that, for instance, in my Fractured Online game, right now, for making Tier 2 and Tier 3 equipment, the game has random drops of higher-end mobs dropping recipes. But they're completely and utterly random. You don't know what mob is going to drop which recipe, and the rate of drop is, super, super low. And it's pissing a lot of us crafters off because we want to get these specific recipes to make these specific bits of gear. And they're only a short-term valuable item because eventually you'll have them all anyway. So it's not like it's an ongoing thing to keep the economy going in the game. It's too short-term, and it doesn't make any sense, especially in a game where one of their big selling points is the fact that you're not getting a suit of magical armor off of a wolf, or wolf drops wolf teeth, wolf meat, wolf beast blood. It drops things that would make sense for a wolf to drop, and an elemental might drop some money, or a humanoid might drop some money, or undead, but you're not getting money off of the bear or the wolf or the giant caterpillar or whatever that you're fighting. That's the whole point of the game. But then they add these recipes that are dropped by, any high-end mob. could possibly drop it. Anything of a certain tier or higher has a chance of dropping these recipes. And they're ultra, ultra, ultra rare, and you have no way of consistently knowing, like, you say, I need that Scholar's Hood recipe. Well, I don't know who to hunt, because it could be any of them.
Yeah.
That's too random, and it doesn't fit the aesthetics of the game. That's the big point. It doesn't fit the aesthetics of the game. Don't go screwing with the aesthetics that you sold me on just to throw in another randomized thing. That's the only thing I really have major issues with in my beta test of Fractured. But again, I at least give them allowances because it is a beta test. It could go away or change before the actual launch of the game. And I get a chance to actually make feedback on that. But that's the thing. I'm right with you there when it comes to that stuff. Don't break my immersion with this kind of crap. Because that's what it really ends up doing, is it breaks my investiture in the game. It gets me out of the mindset of this is fun and makes it work. Yeah. And it makes it no longer fun. It makes it tedious. And it's the only thing in this game that's really turning it tedious for me. Even in a beta test where a lot of the content hasn't been added yet, I'm still having a ton of fun playing the game, except for that element of the game. Yeah. And I see where you come from that, because it's exactly the same. Okay, we're going to move on to the next topic, and the next one's one that I think is kind of exciting for a lot of us fans out there, and that is Zack Snyder's Justice League just now, today, drops for digital. So, okay, we've already had it drop on HBO Max. Then we had it drop for DVD and Blu-ray. But now, today, you can finally get it at Vudu, Fandango, and Amazon Prime and places like that. You can now order and get your own digital copy. Because if you notice, the Blu-rays and stuff did not come with a digital copy of Zack Snyder's cut of this. And I'm even more excited because I looked on Vudu and the price is already up for Vudu. It's only $14.99 for the digital copy, which is not a bad price at all for the day it drops. But even better, it's only $30 to go ahead and get the whole trilogy. So go ahead and get Superman, Batman v Superman, and Man of Steel with it, and just pay $29.99. Yeah, so that's great. I think that's a great way to market it. And the thing is, it's in the top 10 lists that have been coming out recently about superhero movies and stuff for watched, streamed, whatever. It's been consistently in there at like number 8 or higher. And it recently moved up to number 6 in a lot of lists. So it's getting more and more popular as we go along. To me, crossing fingers, crossing toes, crossing eyes. I want to see them. I want to see them restore the Snyderverse. I'm a big part of the hashtag Restore the Snyderverse movement because, and I know Lurch would agree with me. I know Angel would agree with me. I know a few other people would agree with me. Most of the comic book nerds I know, Restore the Snyderverse is our mantra. The Snyderverse makes so much more sense. It takes so much better care of the characters in the DC universe. The DCEU has had some successes and some flops, but in successes, probably the most successful DCEU title now out is the Snyderverse cut of Justice League. And that means they need to restore the Snyderverse. Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen with the Flash movie. It's kind of up in the air, and I'm not going to talk about that. I refuse to talk anymore about that till we get some definite information. But I want to see the Snyderverse reinstated because, Snyder promised us a 2 and 3 for Justice League when he was originally started working on the Justice League. And I would like to see them come to fruition. Because it would be amazing. Because we would get everybody's fan favorite Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. We would get Momoa as Aquaman. We could possibly get back Cavill as Superman. I'm of mixed feelings about that. I'm not a big Cavill fan. but he's okay in the Snyderverse. We could get Leto as the Joker. I actually liked Leto's Joker, even though some people didn't.
He was great in the Snyder cut of the.
Oh, absolutely.
Scene at the end.
And the parts that you did get and the deleted scenes in Suicide Squad were great. It's just they deleted them. I thought that the Leto was a good take on the Joker. It's just not what everybody expected from the Joker. But I thought it was good, and I thought he had the pathos of the Joker down really well. And so I want to see those things. And we may get Ben Affleck as Batman again then, or we may get Michael Keaton as Batman in the Snyderverse version. Or we might get Pattinson transferred into the Snyderverse somehow.
Yeah.
I'm okay with any of the ways they want to handle the Batman, because the Batman's kind of up in the air.
You know what you could do is just think of, if they wanted to keep in one continuity, Pattinson is the Ben Affleck Batman when he was new, when he was young, 2 years into the job. Because Ben Affleck's been at it for, like, what was it, 20 years he's been doing it? He mentioned in Batman v Superman?
Yes.
So, I don't think there's a problem with them being the same Batman, just different eras of his life.
They could be, yes. And that would work. And that way it wouldn't be as much retconning as just an actor change. And we're going to have some actor changes anyway. Like I said, I don't want to talk about it as much, but we do know that Ezra Miller was fired. So we do know that he is going to be replaced somehow in The Flash. Now, there's a $200 million movie out there, so I'm hoping they don't have to reshoot the whole damn thing. Because that would put major delays into everything. But we've got some other great properties coming into the DCEU. Black Adam's coming out soon. We've got Shazam 2 coming out soon. Wonder Woman 3. Aquaman 2. You know.
Wonder Woman 3.
Well, they're starting work on Wonder Woman 3. They haven't actually got a release date for it yet. But Wonder Woman 3 is in the works. Shazam 2, Black Adam. And of course, Black Adam is also going to include the Justice Society characters. Because, we've got from the clip, we know Dr. Fate is in there. We know Hawkman's in there. We know there's a few different Justice Society characters that we know and love that are going to show up in Black Adam. And there's even talk of at least a little bit of a backdoor cameo of Superman in Black Adam. Although it could be as much of a cameo as he was in Shazam, where you saw a headless Superman figure. Or like at the end of Peacekeeper. But we've got season 2 of Peacekeeper coming out. We've got Penguin coming out as TV series. There's talk about a Captain Boomerang series coming out. There's so much more. Nathan Fillion was on a talk show recently, and they said that they pointed out that TDK was never actually listed as dead, because the disconnecting kid has the ability to survive quite a bit of punishment because he can disconnect from all the different parts of his body. So TDK might still be alive and could be used again. As just another thing. We've got the Harley Quinn showing up in a lot of stuff still. So and Margot Robbie, fantastic as Harley Quinn. There's so much good coming out of the DCEU right now. If they were to restore the Snyder Cut, the DCEU, do I think it'll be as big as the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Give it time. But it would at least have a better chance of getting close under Snyder than under anybody else, I think. Especially if they add in some of the creative power that supported Snyder, like James Gunn. If you bring in some of the creative power that is really added to and not subtracted from some of these movies, it's going to be fantastic. So anyway, the main gist of this particular segment of our show was the fact that you can now get it on digital. I mean, you might have HBO Max. You don't have to worry about getting it on digital. You might have bought it on Blu-ray already, so you've already got it in your collection. But hey, you can also go ahead and drop just a mere $15, throw it in your digital collection as well, and it puts another dollar vote into the vote box to try to say, hey, look, we are behind Snyder's cut. And we vote with our dollars when it comes to this kind of stuff. We really do. And we've shown that our votes matter in the past, because that's how we got the Snyder Cut to come out in the first place. It wasn't originally going to be released. We got it released. We the fans. And if we the fans push hard enough, we can get it reinstated as canon. And that's what I want. I'll get off my soapbox now and help Lurch back off too, because I know he's actually up here with me, even if he's not as vocally there because he's letting me talk. But I know he supports me.
I got my yelling out on skate, so
yeah. You usually let me talk quite a bit because I know I'm a little bit overbearing sometimes. And we'll go into our next topic, which is a Netflix topic that Lurch came across.
You may remember, I'll just start off with this. The new news is in the last quarter, in the most recent quarter for Netflix, their financial quarter, they lost nearly 1 million subscribers. And you may remember 3 months ago, announcement came out about the quarter before this, where they lost 200,000 subscribers. And after that loss of 200,000 subscribers, there was a bit of panic, because that was a huge number to lose in 3 months. And after that one, they were having meetings talking about how, people are wanting cheaper options or whatever, and they decided to create a cheaper version that has ads. But at the same time, they then raised their price by like $1.50 or something for the existing versions. Anyway, now that they've lost another 1 million subscribers, I am not sure what's going to happen over there.
They're anticipating a growth again later in the year, but if they don't see that growth, it could spell defeat. The trouble Netflix is coming across is raising their prices, going to a commercial model like so many other streamers are doing, and then trying to compete with so many other streamers. There's too many streamers coming out on the market, and they're finding they're no longer the top cock on the walk. I mean, it's just it's tough. I mean, HBO, in my opinion, is the better streaming platform. The only thing Netflix has over HBO, they have a couple of things. One is when they do come out with a series, you get the whole series all at once. You don't have to wait for it to incrementally come out. So you either get it all at once or you get it in parts. So you get several episodes at once, which is, to me, a plus that Netflix has. And the other is their back catalog is bigger. They've got a huge back catalog and a few contracts that are still in effect that makes it to where they get stuff before other people. But it's starting to even out as those contracts run out and they end up going to their other associated streaming platforms. We're getting, like right now, a lot of the CW stuff goes to Netflix right after it airs on the CW. And even though HBO can now get it at the same time, so because it used to be it had to go to Netflix first before it could go over to HBO Max, but now they're at the point of the exclusivity contract where HBO Max gets it almost as quickly as Netflix does. I think Netflix gets like a 1 month lead in before HBO Max gets it. But those windows are closing, and that's hurting Netflix. So exclusive content like Stranger Things is and contracted movies like the Adam Sandler movies that are being made now for Netflix and stuff are the only thing that they're bringing to the table that other streaming sites don't have.
I mean, they have got quality shows. They had the Umbrella Academy. They had Stranger Things. They've got
they've got some.
Next month they have what's that show going to be? The Sandman.
They got the Sandman. They're working on Wednesday. They've got a few different shows that are coming out, and they've constantly got new stuff coming out. But the trouble is, they have to reach a big enough audience, and with so many competitors, and the competitors are doing the same thing now. I mean, Amazon Prime has got a bunch of new shows coming out under their label. HBO is. Hey, my buddy Smowman is in the chat.
And I mean, Netflix is still.
They can't really hear you as much. Let me turn you up a little bit. Let's see here. Lurch.
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn you up in Discord a little.
Okay.
There we go. That
so
should.
I was going to say that Netflix is still the number one highest subscribed to streaming service in the world.
But it's losing ground.
They have roughly 220 million subscribers. So losing 1 million subscribers is less than a half of a percent. But
that's a heck of a market share.
Yeah. And they don't want it to keep. They don't want it to keep dropping.
They don't want it to snowball, is what they call it, or avalanche. Because once the momentum gets started, and you get more and more people leaving. I mean, right now, one of their saving graces is a lot of weirdos like me that have got several streaming services, so they're okay. But there's the ones.
And I mean, and as it is, I mean, they're still making over $3 billion a month in subscription fees.
Right.
So it's not that they're hurting today, but they can be hurting tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the thing, is they can't let this kind of continue because it'll hurt their market share, and it sets a precedent. The more they show losses in a quarter, the more people will jump ship, including investors and partners, because they partner with stuff like, for instance, a lot of people get their Netflix membership through their cell phone membership. Just like some people get their HBO Max or their Disney Plus or their Hulu through their cell phone. But those cell phone companies are going to pick and choose who they do their partnership with based on those quarterly earnings statements. And if Netflix is showing losses 2 and 3 and 4 quarters in a row, they start looking elsewhere for their partnerships. And you get more and more partnerships with Apple TV and HBO Max and Disney Plus and Hulu and all the different Peacock and Paramount Plus. I mean, there's so many streamers out there, and there's a new one coming out, it seems like, every time you turn around. and either they're coming around or they're merging. Like, for instance, HBO and Discover just merged, and they're getting ready to combine their systems, but that makes HBO Discover a bigger threat to Netflix, because now you'll find you don't have to go 2 places to get the stuff. You only have to go 1 place to get all the stuff for both streaming networks soon, and that's a bigger giant versus Netflix. And as I've already said on the show, they might be the biggest streaming service out still, but HBO Max is still my favorite of them. I think I get more use out of HBO Max. And don't get me wrong, I love Netflix. I love Stranger Things. I love Umbrella Academy, October Faction. All of those are great shows. I like the new Master of the Universe, the good one, not the more futuristic one that's got the crappy animation. But
they did a futuristic He-Man.
Yeah, they did 2 He-Mans that came out about the same time. One that was more in the kind of the style of the old He-Man, and they did it in 2 parts, and it was fantastic. And it's supposed to get some more later. And then they did one that was more of a kind of futuristic He-Man thing that just wasn't the same. And I'm not a big fan of it at all. But they're still supposed to be working on that live action one too. I haven't heard any updates on that in a while. But, Netflix at least owns the rights to that. Netflix owns the rights to the next Power Rangers that's supposed to come out. Disney owns Power Rangers, but Netflix is supposed to be the one producing the reboot or whatever.
What?
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
That's supposed to be Power Rangers reboot.
I thought the Power Rangers was owned by Bandai Namco.
Yeah, but the rights to the reboot are supposed to be being produced currently through Netflix. So Netflix is doing one of the new Power Ranger projects.
I know Hasbro owns.
Hasbro owns the toy and distribution, but the actual right now the current production of one of the Power Rangers projects is a Netflix project, and I think it's the reboot project is the one that's Netflix, where the other project is going to probably show up on Disney. But they haven't been commenting on everything. And then there's Billy Yost's project, which I'm not sure what's going to...
I know, in 2001, Disney bought Power Rangers, but then sometime later, Haim Saban bought it back from Disney. I don't think Disney owns it at all currently.
They own the rights to some of the distribution, from what I understand. But you know what? That they changed hands so much, who knows? Haim Saban, I always thought handled it the best, but Shuki Levy and Haim Saban were best.
Hasbro acquired Power Rangers for $522 million in 2020.
All I know is that there's currently a Power Rangers project in the works via Netflix.
Yeah?
Yeah. And we're supposed to get at least some news about it, either this weekend at Comic-Con or at the big Power Ranger Con, even though they're not having a panel. They are having a meet and greet with some of the stars of Dino Fury, though. Anyway, Netflix just kind of has to watch their bottom line and see what they're doing and maybe re-strategize a little bit. But if they keep bringing us shows like Stranger Things, I don't think they'll have too much to worry about because Stranger Things is doing phenomenally well. If they keep using creative people like the Duffers, they may not have anything to worry about. On the other hand, if they start producing a whole bunch of like really crappy movies and stuff, they might have to worry. Now we do get the new season of Cobra Kai coming out in September. We get Stranger Things 5 the next time it comes out, which is hopefully next year. We get the Stranger Things spin-off they're proposing. Things like that, those are going to help. And their biggest competitors for stuff like that is going to be series like The Boys and stuff that come out on other networks exclusively. Was there anything else you were going to talk about on this topic?
No, I wasn't. But I was looking it up, and yeah, there's a deal in place to expand the Power Rangers franchise by doing a new Netflix series that's being worked on by some of the team behind the Witcher series.
That's what I'd heard.
That's aiming to be a more
adult
short take on the Power Rangers universe.
Yeah, the more adult one.
Yeah.
I knew it was in there because I follow a lot of that stuff.
Interesting.
Sounds like thunder outside.
Like Netflix owns it, but they have a deal to work on a series of their own making. They've at
least licensed this one deal, even if they don't have any perpetual license. Okay, well, we're going to move on to our next thing, which is okay. This is just a little brief thing talking about the fact that the Arrowverse is ending, of course, because there's only one show currently in the active Arrowverse Earth Prime, and that show is Flash. So all the new shows they're saying are basically going to be in the new Superverse. They're talking about, they haven't 100% confirmed yet, but they are pretty much saying that the new Gotham Knights and the new Diggle show spinoff are going to be in the Superverse instead of in the Arrowverse. Now that's going to require some retooling of those shows because when they were originally proposed, they were proposed as spin-offs out of the Arrowverse with the appropriate connections to the Arrowverse, and they would have to do some slight changes to make them fit into the Superverse. But as as several other streamers have indicated in the last couple of weeks since this was kind of revealed, there's a lot of advantages that Superman and Lois gained by not being a part of the Arrowverse Prime. Big part is the fact that their freedom to reuse a lot of villains and stuff that have already been used up, in especially Supergirl. It also allows them to still focus on the Kent family more, because if they were part of the Arrowverse, then a lot of the times the show might have had eclipsed by the other characters in the Arrowverse having to come in and maintain some of that continuity. But this way we can focus on Lois. We can focus on Jordan and Jonathan and stuff. We can focus on John Henry. We don't always have to because for instance, if you look at the recent conflict with Parasite, if they were in the regular Arrowverse, it actually would have made more sense to have brought in help from Kara and help from Barry and help from Oliver. And Oliver's dead in the Arrowverse, but a help from the Legends. Those kind of things. It would have been more of a reason for a crossover type event, or at least a big cameo event like Armageddon. But with them being separated, loosely connected because of the multiverse, but separated into the Superverse, they can actually have more freedoms to focus on the characters that are more a big part of their show. It even allows them to make characters like Lana more important.
With that in mind, I got a question for you.
Uh-huh.
If there was any one particular villain, just clear your head, what one villain would you like to see show up in Superman and Lois? Whether they've been used in another show or not, what one villain would you like to see show up in Superman and Lois?
The one villain, I mean, obviously, probably the biggest, most iconic Superman villain of all is Lex Luthor. Yeah. I mean, you really have to see a Lex Luthor somewhere down the line.
That's the one I most don't want to see.
I want to see, but I'm not necessarily into another John Cryer version.
I would honestly rather the show get canceled than bring in Lex Luthor again.
Well, I think they need to have a Lex Luthor show up at some point. I don't think he needs to have the major arcs that he's had in previous iterations of Superman or in Supergirl. But at least one arc of Lex Luthor would be nice because he's so iconic for the Superman character. Another one I would love to see. Lobo.
Lobo, yeah.
Lobo would be good, or Metallo. Are good choices for Superman villains. Mr. Mxyzptlk or Mxyzptlk, as they pronounced it in the CW verse. It was always a favorite of mine. I liked the little nth dimensional imp, but really, I would like to see Lex show up, but not John Cryer as Lex. I'd love to see Michael Rosenbaum reprise his role as Lex Luthor. That would be fantastic. If they were going to bring back a Lex Luthor, that would be a Lex Luthor I would sink my teeth into. But other than that, Superman has had some really interesting villains throughout the years. And when we're already going to get Intergang next season, and Intergang is a big villain for Superman fans. Who else really personifies someone? I mean, we've had Bizarro now. We've had Parasite. We've had a version of Zod. Yeah, really, for me, I think Lobo is probably, again, my answer. Lobo is, I think, the one I would like to see the most. Because
Yeah,
you just don't ever see enough of Lobo, especially you haven't really seen much live action Lobo.
I
Uh,
believe there's a Lobo movie in production.
there's one in production, and I think Lobo showed up in Krypton.
Oh
But
yeah,
but but I didn't really watch Krypton, so uh,
I can't believe I haven't watched it, but I need to.
I watched a little bit of it, but not a lot. I need to go back and watch it. But
A character I would like to see show up in a Superman series is Rogol Zar. He's not as popular of a character. He's much newer than most of the other Superman villains.
not
But
familiar with him.
he is allegedly the being that ultimately destroyed Krypton the way it happened. Like it was
Okay.
already on the verge of collapse,
Oh,
but it could have been possible for people to escape. But
and
Rogol Zar
you just made me
showed
think of
up.
another one classic that I want. Maybe almost as classic as Lex Luthor, really. Brainiac.
Yeah,
Brainiac is so classic and so fun. I love Brainiac.
yeah,
So
a
uh,
legit threat. Brainiac could be
would
a
be
season
amazing.
long
I mean,
story
because
arc.
we've had Brainiac 5 in the CW,
Yeah,
but we haven't had a really good Brainiac since Smallville had James Marsters. I mean, not James. Yeah, it had Spike from
yeah.
Buffy
I know
as
who you
Brainiac.
mean. I'm trying to really think of his actor's name.
Isn't it James Marsters?
I think so. I think that
Yeah.
was his name.
Well, because there's Marsters and Marsden, and I get the two of them mixed up.
Yeah. I think
Because
you're
one is
right.
Cyclops and one is Spike.
I was gonna say, I was gonna ask, did we not have a Brainiac somewhere in Supergirl? Because when we met Brainiac 5, wasn't Supergirl nervous about him being a Brainiac? She's like, "Wait, you're a Brainiac?"
I think
And
only because but she might have just known the Brainiac from Krypton though,
yeah, she might have known the Brainiac like
and
from an off-screen event that her Superman encountered.
or
Is what I'm
that
thinking.
Krypton encountered because we know that Brainiac was also in the CW version of the Fall of Krypton. He was, I think, involved with part of the fall of Krypton,
Yeah.
and uh, and that's kind of canon for some versions of the Fall of Krypton anyway. Is
Yeah.
Brainiac is part of it.
So,
Plus, we did have Dark Brainiac 5. We had Dark Brainiac 5.
yeah,
So we had
that's
dark versions of Brainiac 5. So we did have Brainiac adjacent.
true.
But I would like to see Brainiac.
Yeah.
Well done, played by somebody. Really, honestly, I would like to see either a really great actor to step into it that nobody expects. I mean, somebody like a Kiefer Sutherland or something like that nobody expects to play him. Or I want a totally unknown actor to show us what they can do. I don't want them to come up with just a B-lister.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need a
My
real solid A-lister or an unknown.
my idea for Rogol Zar, I don't think Rogol Zar would be good for like a season-wide threat, but I think what would be cool with Rogol Zar is to have him show up, introduce the ideas behind why he destroyed Krypton, and then Superman kind of need to seek out answers for why Krypton got destroyed. But
So you want him
that
to
would,
be more of a teaser.
yeah, yeah, he'd only need to be a major threat for like a couple episodes early on, sent off to the Phantom Zone. Maybe
But
halfway through the season or late in the season, he breaks out of the Phantom Zone and becomes a threat again or whatever.
but
While Superman tries to find out, because Rogol Zar in the comics, Rogol Zar destroyed Krypton under orders from a cabal of aliens that decided Kryptonians were too dangerous and needed
yeah,
to be wiped out from the universe before they traveled to galaxies with yellow suns.
yeah, and a lot of the other Superman villains are often are often shared villains. They're villains that end up crossover with a lot of the other superheroes. I mean, Superman initially had a bunch of villains that were his, but they ended up getting shared. and some of them just wouldn't have the same impact without the other heroes involved. Like, you wouldn't pull out Starro without other superheroes. And we've already actually seen them in Suicide Squad. But they did a fantastic job as a kaiju. I loved it. Starro the Kaiju. That's right. Starro the Kaiju. I loved it. But yeah, that's an example of a character that just wouldn't work without the other superheroes involved. Other characters are like actually primarily other superheroes, villains that Superman has fought, like Solomon Grundy and I'm blanking. But Lobo is such a uniquely Superman villain, even though he's crossed paths with like Green Lanterns and stuff in the past. He's still so much of a key Superman villain that just once in a while got shared. Lobo, to me, would still be great, and so would Brainiac because of that. They're both really iconic Superman villains that didn't get a lot of screen time with his fellow heroes, except in the big crossover events. You know? Where Lex Luthor is another big Superman villain, but he's also been a villain for Supergirl, and he's pestered Batman a little bit, and you know, he's come in and he tries to take over the world. He ends up fighting Wonder Woman a little, you know. He's been, but usually it's involved when they do it as a big group thing.
Yeah, he's primarily very strongly a Superman villain. He doesn't usually. I'm not a Supergirl expert, but my experience with Supergirl is usually she's not dealing with Lex very often. She's
not often
doing other things. But the creators or the writers for the Supergirl TV series don't seem to know enough about Supergirl stuff, so they just kept borrowing from known Superman quantities.
I think they knew enough. They were just borrowing from Superman because. Remember when the CW was first, the CW verse first started with Arrow, they knew right off the bat they had no rights for Superman or Batman.
Yeah.
So.
I guess whether the rights knew or not, yeah, for both, and that was true. Yeah, Batman too. They just kept borrowing things from Batman for Arrow
because they didn't have the
from Superman for Supergirl.
Well, not only that, but even before Supergirl came into the CW verse. Barry Allen was the Superman character of that duo because he was the goody two shoes, heart of the show type of character. Celtic is saying your audio is very low too. I turned you up, but I don't know how you're coming through on the stream. Let me try turning you up a little bit more, and then.
Is there a way to turn me up on the stream, not necessarily up on Discord?
I'm not sure. Let me go into my volume settings and see if there's something I can do. Let's try now. Say something now.
Hello.
Whoa, that's a little. That's a little too high. Let me turn it down a little.
Oh, jeez.
There we go. That should help. It's one of those things where my system had muted Discord like majorly.
Oh, gosh. So, Salty Link and Snowman, how do I sound now? Am I a little more level, a little more even?
Yeah. Salty Link is not... is here, rather. But Snowman, I don't think is here anymore.
Yeah, but it looks like Salty Link says I'm all right now.
Yeah. Salty Link is one of the people that I went playtesting Fractured with yesterday, day before. We went and fought some bandits in Fractured. So he's from Fractured, the MMO. So we played a little bit there. That was a lot of fun.
Cool. Anyway, so yeah, we spent a long time on Superman. I was just curious.
Yeah. And we've got like a little bit over a half hour.
We've had a lot of Superman. We've had 10 years of Smallville. We had Lois and Clark, which occasionally Allie will accidentally call Superman and Lois and Clark. She's like, do we have a new episode of Lois and Clark? No, a new episode of Lois and Clark hasn't come out since the 90s.
I almost do that too because of the similarity in the names.
Yeah. Every time she does it, I have to tease her about it, though.
Hey, no problem, Celtic. I don't mind you having to go at the end of that one thing. And we understood. We still had a great fun going out with you. And it's great that you got to go cook now. No problem. We just do this show every Tuesday where we talk about stuff in the nerdosphere. I'm actually not talking Fractured right now, but it's always great to have any of my regulars come in. So thank you so much for stopping by. Enjoy your meal. We're going to move on to our next topic now because we got a little over a half hour left, and we still have to do our spoilers show when it comes to Love and Thunder. So we got
TV shows to talk about, or
we're going to talk about the finale of Miss Marvel this week, and I'm going to do my vault recommendations. I'm going to really quickly do my Kickstarter. And real quickly, and then we'll go right into my vault recommendations. I got 2 of them, but I'm going to just barely gloss over them. So for Kickstarter, this time around, we've got The Awakening of the Dragon Queen, which is a miniature file set for 3D printers. That is Kickstarter. They're only looking to raise $8,000, and they've got 25 days left to go. They've raised about an eighth of what they're going for. It's the Green Village Under Attack set, and the reason that's important is because that's the first adventure in the Tyranny of Dragons adventure book that's been out for a while. So it's one of the first published adventures for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So you can get the miniatures printable that work with that adventure specifically. And there are some pledge packs that get you like the hero set, which you get these 4 miniature files. There's the enemy set 1, enemy set 2, NPC set, which I think is cool because they got a little farmer with his pig right there on the base with him. Now, another thing they do different, and then they got the complete set. The complete set that comes with everything. Now, one of the things they've got is they come with these plain bases, not the bases shown, which are the more decorative bases. They come with these plain bases. However, these decorative bases that you see in a lot of the close-ups and stuff are available in, I think it's one of the stretch goals. Or several of the stretch goals added, like there's the farmer with his pig. I think that's pretty badass for details of an NPC character. Especially since you don't get a lot of pig minis in D&D. You get some battle boars that are ridden by goblins, but you don't get like the pigs for like the farmers and stuff. And they've got some interesting NPCs and militia and things like that. You got a dwarf that's like a town dwarf, not like a player character. He's smoking a pipe, he's got a lantern, he's got a big beer belly and an apron, so he could be like a taverner or a crier in town, and it works like really good. You got a governor, but then here's the more decorative set of bases. They're models that if it gets to just $250 more than the $8,000 goal, gets you that set unlocked, and another $250 gets you that set unlocked. Then another $250 gets you that set unlocked. So they're adding these extra, more extensive bases, and then there's an accessory set that you can get, so you can like change out some of their weaponry and stuff. Again, another accessory set. Then there, some additional decorative pieces and things that are the stretch goals. And they're really nice sculpts, it looks like. And if you look, like here's one of the dragons that you get. But they're all set for your 3D printer. So you can just do a $10 pledge without a reward, which anybody can do. But there's as little as a $5 pledge is supporter, and you still get the Blue Dragon sculpt.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's a Blue Dragon sculpt that you get just with a $5 pledge. That's not bad at all. Now, you still have to have the 3D printer to do it. It's not like they send you the sculpt. They send you the file and the supporting files for it. But still, that's not bad for a really good detailed sculpt of a dragon.
No.
And then you can go into some of the other pledge levels. You know, there's a $15 that gives you the hero set, or $17 to get enemy set 1, or $70 for enemy set 2, or the all set in one for $35 basically gives you everything plus the Blue Dragon for $35. That's not bad to get a big set to run the full encounter with. And it's $25, and it was just a real quick Kickstarter. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I like to do a Kickstarter every week, and I thought this would be an interesting one to just kind of showcase. Because I've showcased miniature sets before, and I've showcased 3D printers before, and I've even showcased the occasional one that just had you could get the files, but it was primarily about getting the minis. This case, there's even a commercial license level where you can get a 1-year license to resell the sculpts if you get the sculpts. So you can get the files, and you have a year where you can resell. You can't sell the files, but you can sell the sculpts for a full year on the license. So that's pretty cool as well. You know, make a little bit of money, and that's less than $50.
Wait, hang on. You can for 1 year you can sell the figures?
You have the right to resell the figures. Yes, you can print and sell them. You just can't sell the files.
Right, but then after that 1 year,
you'd have to renew the license. Yeah,
gotcha.
But that's not bad at all. $50 for a turnkey, basically.
Yeah.
And then you could expand your business with other files and stuff later on and develop your own files. And you could always renew the license if they're big sellers for you. Or you could print a huge stock of the extra stuff and just sell until your stock is run out. Just couldn't necessarily print more. Is I think how that works. At the end of the license, you'd have to inventory how much stock you had left, and that'd be the last stuff you could do. I'm not absolutely sure the ins and outs of this licensing. You'd have to look at the fine print. But these are some lovely sculpts. I love that dragon.
Yeah.
I love the NPC with the pig. I like that dragonborn there. He's really good.
There's a slick ass dragon. We talked recently about a Kickstarter for a new model of color 3D printer, didn't we?
Yeah, that color 3D printer was badass too.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could get one, but I would never use it enough to justify its price for that.
That's my problem. Like I could.
We'd want it, but we'd never really justify it.
Financially speaking, around the start of the new year, I could afford to buy one. Like I thought out the math. I could afford to buy one around the start of the year. However, I wouldn't do enough with it to justify the cost.
At least not in the first year.
I don't have.
Given over time, you might, but yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty artistic in terms of ideas and story writing, but in terms of visual art, I am not there.
Yeah, you'd have to get it just to license it to your friends.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're going to jump out of this because we're running a little light on time because we spent a lot of time on Superman. We tend to do that. I'm going to talk about my 2 from the vaults. This time they're TV shows, not movies. First off, as person of interest, for those of you who don't know what the series is, a scientist, programmer, engineer designs a artificial intelligence to predict terrorist attacks after 9/11 happens. And he creates this thing called the machine and licenses it to the government. But he writes in a restriction so that all the government gets is a social security number and they have to use that as a clue to go out and find out where the terrorist attack or the relevant attack happens. But it also it monitors everything in the world, every open camera system, every multimedia, everything. It compiles it and uses it to predict these things. And it also came up with a list of what it considered irrelevant numbers. These are other people that are going to either kill somebody or be killed, and it would produce these numbers as well. And they just got deleted at the end of every day initially, and then he sold the program hyper encrypted to the government for $1. And so the government goes to start, taking care of the relevant files. He goes and finds an ex-special forces and CIA guy and uses him to go out and track down the quote-unquote irrelevant numbers and find out if they're the victim or the perpetrator of the murder that they're investigating, and stop the murder if they can, and rescue people. So they go out and rescue people, and eventually they team up with a couple of NYPD detectives in homicide, and then Amy Acker joins the group as the analog interface for the machine, because she actually almost thinks of it as a god and worships it as the god's cleric. Kind of. She's the analog interface for it. She's a hacker that basically anthropomorphizes the machine. And it goes through 5 seasons of this, including the last couple seasons, where they actually get another AI in competition, and they end up being AI versus AI in several episodes and everything. But the main guy that designed it is a multi-billionaire who nobody really knew, because he always worked in the shadows with his best friend as his partner, being the one taking the credit for everything he designed. But he had money on top of money on top of money. He never have to work a day in his life. And he uses that to fund things. He fakes his own death, but he still has tons of money scored away in different ways. And he uses that money to pay his operative and to fund their different things. I mean, sometimes he just buys a company in order to facilitate one of their situations. He's that kind of guy. And it goes through 5 seasons. It's a wonderful show. Lots of tech nerdy stuff, which is, I think, what would appeal to a lot of our people. And so I wanted to point that one out, and it's on HBO Max. So it's a show you can go watch on HBO Max. There are 5 seasons to watch, even though the 5th season is shorter than normal, which is typical. Last season of a show is often shorter. I think it's had 13 episodes in the final season. But the other seasons had 20 or 24 episodes. It's great, though, and you will recognize some of the actors from other famous nerdy shows. Like Amy Acker was, of course, Winifred in Angel, and she was also in Dollhouse and a few other shows, as like Joss Whedon type shows. So that was one of the ones I wanted to recommend, and then I'm quickly going to bump to the next one, and that is Misfits. If you're a fan of British sci-fi, and if you're a fan of alternative superhero type of storylines like The Boys and Watchmen and all these other alternatives where the supers are not always the goody two-shoes that we think of when we think of Superman, Misfits is the show for you. Okay,
the show's freaking great. I watched this years ago.
I've watched it so many times, and I'm rewatching it again. It is so awesome.
You recognize the kid who plays Nathan in Misfits?
Nathan is the immortal kid, right?
Yeah.
Where do I know him from?
He's on Umbrella Academy.
Which one is he?
He's the immortal guy on Umbrella Academy.
He's Klaus?
He's Klaus.
Oh my God, I didn't recognize him as Klaus. Oh my goodness. And then, of course, Weird Kid, the one they call Weird Kid all the time, I forget what his name is right now, who's the one on the end of this picture here, the other end from Nathan, is in Game of Thrones as Ramsay, and he's also in the Inhumans limited TV series as Black Bolt's brother.
I saw Misfits long before any of these other things, right?
Right.
I got to know him because in Misfits, he is the nicest, sweetest guy in the show. He has his quirks, but he's like the nicest guy in the show.
And the most bullied.
And he's bullied a lot. And then you see him on. Then the next thing I saw him on was Game of Thrones, where he's a horrible monster.
He is absolutely horrid as Ramsay. He is so bad.
Oh my God.
He is so bad. Yes.
Baby boy just going
it's like night and day. Yeah. In fact, there's a card in my game what you call it, Cards Against Humanity, called Ramsay's Sausage, just because because of that. But he's great, and it's night and day, the two characters. It just shows the versatility of the actor. And then he's an asshole as Black Bolt's brother in the Inhumans, too.
Yeah, but he's an asshole who's pretty good at acting like he's not an asshole when he wants to.
Right. So he shows the versatility of the actor. And it is a great show. Now, you want to talk about assholes. Nathan in Misfits is an asshole. Nathan is a total asshole. But he's so fun to watch as an asshole. He's got zero filter whatsoever. Oh my God.
He was certainly a highlight for the series.
He was, and I was upset a little bit when he left later in the series and was no longer the primary. But they did replace him with an okay guy, the Multiple Man. And of course they kept Weird Kid, so that was good. But some of the other ones that they brought in later on weren't as interesting.
So, just real quick, basically the premise of Misfits is if a bunch of juvenile delinquents got powers, but they were still stuck doing community service and were sucky at their powers.
Yeah, and they do not have your normal set of powers. Just to start off, I'll just name the powers of the initial 5, their initial set of powers, because they do change as the show goes on. Because a lot of these shows have power changes, as we know. Nathan starts out thinking he has no power at all, then they find out he's immortal. He keeps coming back from the dead.
Yeah. They don't find that out until he gets murdered, and then
the first time, Yeah. Once they pull the log out of his brain, he gets better. Then there's what's her name? I can't think of her name right now, and I just watched an episode. But she's an empath, or she's a telepath. She can hear people's thoughts. Then there's Ashley or Rachel or something like that. Ashley.
Nathan's the only one name I can remember anymore. It's been too long.
I think it's Ashley, but I might be wrong. She has touch sexuality. If you make skin-to-skin contact, you immediately want to have sex with her.
Yeah. Whether or not you are into her type, you suddenly
male
having sex with her.
Male, female, it doesn't matter. And she has no control over it. So she starts out, because she's a bit of a sex addict, abusing the power, but then she almost gets raped by 2 people at once when it has no control.
It's kind of like a worse version of Rogue's power, where instead of stealing their essence, she
makes them all hot and horny for it, hot and bothered for it. Then you have, can't think of the runner guy's name either, but he was a Olympic hopeful runner who got in trouble for some coke, but he's got temporal rewind power. He can basically rewind time and go back, and gets a chance to reset time, but he only gets a little short rewind window.
I thought that he was able to change his gender at will.
That's the second power he gets.
Oh, okay. That's something he gets later. Okay.
That's something he gets late season 2, early season 3.
Okay.
And then, of course, Weird Kid, Ramsay, He gets the ability to turn invisible initially. Later on, he also gets a really extensive time travel ability. But he starts out with just the ability that he can't really control of going invisible. But when he's invisible, he's also inaudible. So you can't hear him, see him, or anything. But he can see what's going on around him. He can't interact with stuff too much, but he's just kind of there. Yeah, I mean, he does. He can interact. He can do like touching keyboards and stuff like that. But you can't hear him. And yeah, he's mostly like a ghost. But you can't hear him or see him. And so that's the initial crew. And then later on, our second girl here, she gets he doesn't start out as, but he eventually becomes her boyfriend, is a power broker who has the ability to take powers and swap them for other powers. And that's when everybody swaps powers. And the rewind, he gets rid of his rewind power first. That's one of the first powers to get rid of. And his replacement power he ends up stuck with is he randomly switches his gender. And he has no real control over that power either.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting show. It's just fun. It's another kind of the boys thing, but it's not quite as bloody, although they do completely butcher two characters in the first two episodes. So it still got some bloodiness to it. And there's some really fucked up powers as the show goes on. And it's got like 5 or 6 seasons, something like that. It is available on Freevee and Tubi and a few other places right now.
Isn't it a Hulu original?
No, because it was originally a Chan 4 in the UK. But I think it's on paid version of Hulu. If you have the paid Hulu, the Hulu Premium, you can watch it for free. Otherwise, you can buy seasons of it on Amazon or Vudu. But like I said,
airs Wednesdays on Hulu, same days it airs on Channel 4 in the UK.
So it's rerunning on Hulu, and then so if you have Hulu Live, you can watch it.
Yeah,
and then
it's on. The whole series is on Hulu Plus.
And then the whole series is available on Freevee and Pluto. I think it's Pluto. Or Tubi.
It's on Pluto and Tubi.
Yeah, so it's on a few of them. And it used to be on Netflix, but it's not currently on Netflix because that's where I first watched it. And it is just fantastic. You will not regret it if you're into oddball superhero type themed things with irreverent British humor. Dive right in. You'll have a blast.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you right now, Nathan, as Butcher would tell you from The Boys, he's a right cunt. He is, because he is just bad. He's terrible, and that's the only time I use that word that way. But
so he's not terrible like supervillain terrible. He's terrible.
No filter terrible.
Teenage bully terrible.
And he's a teaser more than a bully.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to beat up on people or anything, but he loves to make fun, especially Weird Kid.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name, but Weird Kid's what he's called for at least half of the first season before you really get to know his name. Because Nathan's the most that addresses him, and he just always goes, "Hey, Weird Kid."
Yeah, it's been years since I watched. I think this is the last thing I watched before I started watching Supernatural back in like 2013.
It's phenomenal. I'll probably recommend it again at another time. It's great. It's just called Misfits. It's they basically get their powers, just as a quick synopsis. They're out doing their community service, painting benches actually out near the community center, when this freak storm happens, and they get this hailstones the size of a truck motor falling. I mean, one hits a car and like smashes it to shit. Solid block of ice hailstone. No rain, just hail everywhere. you see these giant chunks of ice hitting the ground, and they're running for cover because they're going to be like squished into bloody messes if they're hit. Yeah. And then the strike of lightning hits them, and you see them all fly back and do that freeze frame in midair thing as they kind of do that lightning strike where you kind of see an X-ray negative. You see their skeletons through them for a second, and then they start to develop their powers. And the first one to develop their powers is Weird Kid. He goes invisible. And then the second one is the empath who starts to hear voices. And the absolute last one is Nathan because he has to die first.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. We're going to get off that because we still got 2 shows to talk about and only 10 minutes technically left of the show. So we're going to go in. We do not have anything in the CW. We're not even going to do updates in the CW other than what we already talked about. We don't have anything in the 7 to talk about today. But we've got the big reveal for Miss Marvel. And there's so much really to talk about. So we may talk more about this next week, which is okay because we kind of got a dead week. We don't have anything really going on as far as media goes. So that's okay.
Yeah, we might save our Thor: Love and Thunder for next week since we don't have running low on time and we don't have other shows.
And that gives another week for people to watch it.
Yeah.
So that's actually a plus. So we're just going to end it with Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel, first of all, the big reveal in Miss Marvel is at the end of the show, Bruno, her guy in this chair, as what's his name from Spider-Man would call him Ned, would say he's the guy in the chair. Bruno points out that she has a mutant gene. So she is a mutant. Now, for those who know Miss Marvel from the comic books, she was not a mutant. She was an Inhuman. But she was.
I want to mention real quick on that subject.
Well, it might be what I'm about to mention, so let's see.
Okay.
The developers originally meant her to be a mutant. Was that it?
Not entirely. What I was going to say is in the comics, she thought she was a mutant at first, and then later in the story learned that she was an Inhuman.
Well, their original intent was to make her a mutant. However, Marvel stepped in. It's believed that it was a Marvel's call to make her an Inhuman. And the reason one of the main reasons they think that is because the time that her character premiered, Quake was coming out in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so they were pushing the Inhumans at the time. And so they gave her a link to the Inhumans instead of a link to the X-Men. Because at the time, they had the rights to the Inhumans. Marvel did, but they didn't have the rights to mutants. And if the comic book was eventually ever going to go live action, they didn't want it on something they didn't have the rights to. So they didn't make her a mutant. They made her an Inhuman so they could still use her later on. But now that they have the rights to the mutants, they went ahead and went back and made her a mutant, which also fits with the rumor that Kevin Feige hates Inhumans. I think it's more of just kind of a meme kind of thing. He doesn't really hate Inhumans. He just realizes that the treatment of the Inhumans so far in the Marvel cinematic offerings has not been well received. Quake was received pretty good, but
to be fair, the only instance we've seen of an Inhuman that's a confirmed Inhuman that is in the main MCU canon is Black Bolt.
Right. And he's even he's an alternate world, yes.
Yeah.
And although the
Inhumans TV show was not worked on by Feige. It was worked on by I forget who the name was.
The guy that they eventually canned from the Marvel TV and then folded Marvel TV under Feige.
Yeah, and
which was a good move.
That guy also ended up being responsible for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show.
Runaways.
So, Runaways. So anything that had Inhumans in live action that wasn't besides Multiverse of Madness was all done by someone that didn't get along with Kevin Feige and just did whatever he wanted with those.
Yeah, and there is still talk of possibly doing another offering of the Inhumans. They just have back burnered it right now.
Yeah.
But if a proper Inhuman offering for our version of the MCU was to come out, I think they could do quite a bit with it, because the Inhumans were a great subset of the Marvel Universe too. But the reason that Kamala Khan was an Inhuman was because at the time they didn't have the rights to do cinematic versions of mutants, and they were hedging their bets in case they did want to do a live action Kamala Khan.
I know there was a period of time in the comics where writers weren't allowed to come up with new mutant characters.
Right, because of the fact of the licensing issues and stuff. Marvel had come down and said no New Mutants in the comics because they didn't want to not be able to utilize them in their movies and TV.
Marvel execs, Scarlet Witch did and said no more mutants to their writing teams.
That's exactly right. And so that's one of the things. So the big reveal this week is that the first official this universe mutant is Kamala Khan. The first official one. That doesn't mean that we're not going to find a reveal that Scarlet Witch is a mutant, that we're going to get a mutant Quicksilver, that we are going to get our own version of the X-Men, because obviously we're building up to that. But the first official mutant is Kamala Khan, and that's going to open up the doorway to the other mutants. And that's great because we've been waiting for any official entry of a mutant into the MCU, and this is now an official mutant entry. So that's the big reveal from the close. We also see a brief cameo by Carol Danvers at the very end post-credit scene. And that they did, I thought they did Miss Marvel great in that they put a post-credit scene in the first episode and the last episode, and they didn't put it anywhere in between, but you watched every episode just to be sure.
Yeah.
Every episode you watched just to make sure they didn't have a post-credit scene. But they did put one in the very end, and that was great, and it involved Carol Danvers. I like the fact that her mother made her costume, which was very much a cultural thing for the Pakistani culture. It's very much the mothers especially like to make the clothes for their daughters, and they like to show off their children, and they showed pride in their children. And so it showed that she was not ostracized by her family. In fact, her family came together majorly in the last episode. The one white girl they knew, Chloe, even showed appreciation for being saved at Avenger Con, and showed that she had realized that Kamala was Nightlight. She hates that name. Yeah. We also find out that Kamala means basically Marvel in Pakistani language, in Farsi. So she is Miss Marvel just by translating her name. So that's and she got so excited when she heard that. And we got to see, of course, Cameron using his powers and going kind of dark Cameron a little bit.
Assuming that description is like legit and accurate, and I have no reason to think it's not, that is a pretty perfect reasoning for her name being Miss Marvel.
Right? We've got the perfect lead-in now for going into the Marvels, which is, of course, Captain Marvel Part 2. I was kind of, we didn't see it, but I was kind of expecting Monica Rambeau to show up before the end. I thought maybe her as a representative of S.H.I.E.L.D. would show up and possibly, a Sword, to act as a go-between when the damage control agent went and broke orders and kept pursuing her. I thought maybe Monica Rambeau might have been sent by Sword and stepped in, but it was still interesting to see. I also thought they might bring in another super of some kind to try to help stop him, but they didn't. They just tried to use tech. Damage control, of course, was really first introduced in the Spider-Man series.
If you didn't recognize it, the tech they use originated in the Edward Norton Hulk movie.
But the actual Department of Damage Control in the MCU really...
Spider-Man Homecoming, yeah.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah.
Which, like I said...
That sound weapon that they have, that sound cannon
right,
on the truck.
The Sonic Blaster cannon, yeah. But I just rewatched the Spider-Man Sony trilogy, the most recent one. So, just because of nostalgia purposes, I wanted to see Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock. This was the thing, because I'm also rewatching Defenders on Disney Plus. But anyway, lots happened with Ms. Marvel. I thought they did a great job with the show. It is the most watched Disney Plus show so far, which is amazing considering it's the least watched in the white male 20s to 30s category demographic. But every other demographic has so blown it out of the water that it's the single most watched. It makes me proud for the show and ashamed for my technical demographic. I'm ashamed for my demographic because they're being petty and stupid, but I'm so proud of the show, and I think it's done great. It's got beautiful color, imagery, music, and culture is so thick in the show. It's amazing. It shows some of the inequities that are actually perpetrated, like when Damage Control just kind of came in on the mosque and just rolled over everything and just ignored a lot of the rights and stuff. That kind of stuff did and has happened in different boroughs throughout the world. And it's nice to actually put a magnifying glass on that so it can stop that kind of thing. And shows like this can also backdoor kind of help with that. But it's nice to see a character of color come to the forefront and truly represent their culture and not just be a character of color version of a white character. It's nice to see Kamala Khan as Kamala Khan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, Black Superman or, Mexican Ghost Rider or whatever. This is Hindi Islamic superhero with a full Hindi Islamic culture.
Yeah.
And that is nice to see for the cultural diversity and the acceptance, I think. And it's really good to see that the rest of the world has gotten behind it and loved it. And it was just so well written. You couldn't help but love the show. Show is great.
Yeah.
And now we're in a dead zone, and we don't have anything until I Am Groot on the 10th of August. On TV, anyway.
Nothing on the CW, nothing on Disney Plus, nothing on...
I don't even think we have a Star Wars release coming out before then.
I think you're correct. I don't believe we do. Let's see. Next, I'm pretty sure the next Star Wars thing is Andor.
So yeah, we're in a dead zone, and I hate these dead zones. Okay, because we don't get the news.
We're getting a 6-part animated series called Tales of the Jedi this fall about Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku.
I don't watch the animated ones, but I'm sure you'll enjoy that. And who knows? I might be so desperate for content by then I might watch it just because I'm desperate for content. It all depends on what else comes out at the same time. But the luck of the matter is, though, a bunch of stuff will come out at the same time.
Andor comes out. Andor starts August 31st, so that's not
the same day that Stargirl comes out.
Yeah, same day as Stargirl.
Yep, because that's the day Stargirl season 3 starts. So
as far as I can find, we don't have anything superhero or Star Wars related till August 10th.
We don't even have anything. And then we don't really have even a new movie coming out before then either.
I don't think so. If you guys can think of something that we're missing,
Please let us
a
know.
message on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, Lurchland on Facebook for Lurch, or you can find me under Clyde Star or Gamer Seuss. And look for my my symbol. You'll usually see, which is a cartoon beholder. Then you'll know it's me, or you'll see an actual picture of me singing karaoke. That'll be one of my profiles.
August 10th is a Wednesday, so the next time we'd have a new show to talk about would be on the 16th. Basically, a month from now is the next time we'd have a show or movie to talk about that I can think of.
Yeah.
The Super Dogs TV or movie.
Oh, Super Pets.
Yeah.
Super Pets with Keanu Reeves playing Batman.
Yeah. I want to watch that, but
it's got because it's got The Rock and it's got Kevin Hart and it's got Keanu Reeves, so that's going to be really good.
So
I'm looking forward to that, but that's not a huge release.
Yeah, and so next week we'll probably spend an hour next week just really going in depth about Thor: Love and Thunder. I think I'm going to talk to Angel, see if he's available to join us next week.
Yeah, we always love it when Angel comes in as a guest.
Yeah,
and he's great guest on these particular type of shows.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. We're actually only 5 minutes over, which for us is not really over at all.
Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and cut it here since we ran out of material. We will catch you next week with a much more in-depth, spoiler-heavy version of Thor: Love and Thunder. So get out to the theaters and watch Thor: Love and Thunder. You will not regret it. If nothing else, you'll love the soundtrack of the movie.
Guns N' Roses music, anyway.
Yeah, if you love Guns N' Roses, you'll love the soundtrack. Especially if you love the Appetite for Destruction album, because that's pretty much the soundtrack for Love and Thunder. There's a couple other songs, but it's almost straight out of Appetite for Destruction. That's not a huge spoiler. That's just fun information. But go watch it. It's worth the money in the theater, I think, to see it and not wait for it to come out on Disney Plus. But it is a fantastic movie. I'm tempted to see it a second time, and I don't go to the movies more than once for a movie right now. I couldn't because I don't have anybody else to go with, but I'm tempted. If I had a season pass, I would be seeing it again. And Lurch has a season pass, so I guarantee you he'll see it again at some point. Yeah. It just depends on his schedule because he's got so much other stuff and new games and things to try out and work and everything else.
I was wanting to try to rewatch it before now, but between I had a go live last week for a new customer, and I got to go live yesterday, so I've had
and then you've got new games to try out. And
yeah. I've been playing a lot of Halo.
Yeah, that's what you said, and you said you like this new Halo, your favorite of all of them.
Yeah, I think I'm nearing the finishing. I think I'm close to the finish line of the story for the Halo Infinite, and at least as a single player experience, I think this is I gotta say this is my favorite Halo game.
Nice.
And that's mostly how I play a lot of it. I mean, I'd love it if it had co-op. Co-op is coming out soon. The beta is currently in progress now. And so after the co-op comes out, I'm sure I'll be playing co-op with some people. But I don't do a ton of competitive multiplayer Halo, but I've done some. But not enough for me to make a strong argument one way or the other. But I've played all of the campaigns now of all the Halo games. And this has been my favorite one.
It's got to have good solo game is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And this one has got good solo game. And that's great. Because I'm the same way. I like to play a lot of my games solo. I mean, I play Fractured Online with my friends, mainly with my sister, but...
And the way this one's structured, I think it will be a freaking blast on co-op.
Yeah. And I did play, like I said the other day, with a group of us in Fractured, and that was a lot of fun. And I can have fun in groups, but after the group gets to be a certain size, it gets to be too much for me. I'm not a big raid guy because I get information overload. Uh, there's too much graphics going on the screen and I can't track it all, and that's why I don't do first person shooters among other things. After a while, I just can't keep track of it all. But I did used to play, like, for instance, Mech Warriors 3, 4-on-4 teams. But it's like how I judge games too. I like to see a game that I can play solo. I don't mind it being in a multiplayer environment, like an MMO or shared world, like Diablo or something where you could get several people in the same world, but you don't necessarily have to travel together and do all the quests together, kind of thing. But you can get in shared instances of it or bigger shared like MMOs. But I'm not mandated to work with other people. That's what I like in a game. I want the option to go about myself on my time and my schedule with my goals. But I like the ability to occasionally run around with friends and colleagues and do like little events like legendary encounters or building cities and things like that where I can interact with multiples. And that's when I do stuff like with my girlfriend or sister because that's my kind of gaming. But I judge things on their ability to be played solo too. That's a big thing for me, and I know that's a big thing for you too, Lurch. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna call it here. As we like to say, may you be worthy of wielding Mjolnir. May your dice not think otherwise and give you ones all the time.
Dude, I'm getting a new Mjolnir in November. I ordered it the other day.
Nice.
I got it's part of the collector's edition of God of War Ragnarok. This fucking gnarly looking Mjolnir. I can't wait. I'll show it off on camera after I have it.
May your painted minis look amazing. May your foes crumble into ash under your heel of justice. And have a good time, everybody.
Peace out. Bye.